But there was one guy who probably all of you know, who was very early in his time about thinking in about entertainment robots. That was Douglas Adams. And in 1979 already, if you look into the Encyclopedia Galactica, it defines that a robot as a mechanical apparatus designed to do the work of a man. The marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation defines a robot as your plastic pal who's fun to be with. That's an entertainment robot. So there are some more issues about entertainment robots which are interesting. One is about emotional attachment. So for example, you buy many tools, and if you see this gadget from a different company and it's better, you buy this other thing. But you don't do that with a pet. You don't sell your dog just because you see a better or bigger dog somewhere. And the idea is to do the same with entertainment robots. So you should build up some kind of emotional relationship with, for example, your Aibo. Give him a name and call him and not it, like I'm already doing. And so you're not so easily throwing it away. So you're staying interested much longer. And it's not so important, the functionality is not really important. It's important that the toy stays, or the robot stays interesting. For example, there's a new development what this robot can do. Now it can play MP3s and you can listen to web radio. And I don't think that's a good idea, because you don't want to have an MP3 player who's walking out of the room. And it's quite big. You don't need that. So I think it was better if the robot is just doing nice things, is being cute, and then that it would sell much better. But anyway, they decided now to have it as a walking MP3 player. For that to stay interesting, it must be able to learn, must be adaptive and unpredictable, and of course, design issues are also important. You want it to look nice. That's the success of an iPod, for example. It's maybe more expensive, but it looks nice, and well, you will buy it. Just a quick overview on robots in films. We already had a nice talk last night by Constanze, seeing some robots and biometric devices. You can see here also in these films that there's a big difference between the Western and the Eastern image of robots. So in most of these Western films, robots are something evil, so robots are something dangerous. And that's not so much the case in Japan, for example. So there are two very different views. So you can see on the left there's Japan. They build most of the robots we see today, like the Aibo, the Curio, Asimo. It all comes from Japan. And in the West, on the right, so that is Europe, but not only Europe, but also the US. You have a different image of robotics, and already for quite a long time. For example, it started with the Golem in Prague. That was kind of a robot, and it was dangerous and evil. We had Frankenstein's monster, which was kind of a robot and dangerous. And also the one other interpretation why Japanese people are more easygoing with robots is about the story about the creation of the world. So in our Western religions, the humans are created in two steps. So you build the human. God builds the human out of a piece of dirt, basically. That's the first step. But then there's a second step. And the second step is very important. And the second step is the divine breath, right? And only these two steps, only with these two steps you can create life. And we have that in all our Western religions like that. But in the East, there were the two different gods. There were sisters, I think, Izanagi and Izanami, and everything was just appeared. So we didn't really have this creation in two steps. There was just a spontaneous generation. And so it's the Japanese people, maybe because of that tradition, maybe that's one of the reasons why they have a more easier approach to machines that behave like living beings. Okay, some example of robotic hardware hacks. So in recent days, it became quite trendy to buy some commercial robots and modify them. You already have seen one example, which is the artificial mouse, where we modified a Kepera robot by adding lots of different sensors, like real red whiskers. So that's kind of a not really a cyborg, but an animal-robot mixture. Then, of course, Lego Mindstorms, they're built to be modified, and you can see in the area there, you can also join some nice robotics projects there, also programming Lego Mindstorms, build some new interfaces maybe, compatible for Linux. Then there are two examples which I want to show more into detail. One is the RoboSapien, built by Mark Tilden, which, if you've been here last year, you saw a talk about that. And the other one is some modification of some pet dogs. This is not an Aibo, by the way. So let's have a look at the examples of these dog hacks. So in Paris, I met an artist. She calls herself Cyberdoll. She's called France Cadet. And she modifies these dogs and does different things with them. So you can see on the right, you can see a whole different, whole sort of different robot modifications. Here, if you can see that, it's shown how it's done. So it's based on an iCybe, which you can get very cheaply on eBay, and adding a little bit of hardware, and then you can program them. And one of them is, for example, this is a mixture between a dog and a jellyfish, apparently. So it's glowing in the dark and makes some strange noises. Here we have a schizo dog, which is kind of obvious why it's called like that. And on the bottom here, you see a dog, which is actually a cow. And if I can show the video, what is the interesting thing about this? Oh, it's called Dolly, actually. These are all the different species they've exhibited in an exhibition.
Disease, progeria, premature aging, abnormal size, and other various pathologies.
Okay, these were creations by France Cadet. Then I'm just going to show again RoboSapien. That's a robot that has been built by Mark Tilden. And he actually wanted people to hack this robot, to make hardware modifications. And one quote by him is, a single screwdriver takes the RoboSapien completely apart, and inside everything is labeled, color-coded, and socketed for convenience. So that was really the idea of why he was building the robot. And I think the price was around 100 euros. If you bought it just like that, it was remote controlled, but the chest of the robot was empty, so you could open it and put in your own things and wire it up and build an autonomous robot. And one example of someone who did that is the example of Sven Behnke from Freiburg, who gave a talk last year about it. He modified the RoboSapien with a PDA and a small camera and used it for RoboCup. And maybe I can also show a video of the movements of RoboSapien. It's not very efficient, but it's kind of working. It's taking too long. Okay, that was RoboSapien. So much about robotic hardware hacks. There are lots more, but I think these are the interesting ones, the modified dogs and the modified RoboSapien. Just quickly at the end, I want to mention some security issues you might be thinking about which might arise with robotics. One, of course, is military robots. People started to build robots for the military, robots that went to Iraq. I don't think it's the state of the art is like that we can trust what's going to happen. I mean, computers crash, robots crash. It's just very dangerous what's going on there. And there are also these ideas about building robot swarms, which are tiny, thousands of tiny little robots equipped with cameras. So these are currently built. It's not working yet, but that will also throw in some new questions. And of course, even entertainment robots like the Aibo are posing maybe some security and risks. So, for example, with the new software here, I just read out what are the features of the software if you buy that thing commercially. Okay, it has wireless LAN, it has a video camera, it can read your emails, and it plays MP3s. So there are some problems with that, of course, as you can imagine. So the advertisement text here says, in Navigator, you can either remotely control or monitor Aibo while viewing the world through Aibo's camera. House sitting mode allows you to record video from